The Bhagavad Gita is talking a lot about things that Casey kind of talked about with
Yeah.
Atlantis, with flying machines,
Yeah.
energy weapons, things like that. In your study, have you connected the Bhagavad Gita stories or things in the Vedic texts or
Yes.
traditions into where we're at now with
I
Atlantis?
have. I have. In fact, in the pre-Platonic sources in the beginning of the book, I mentioned in the Mahabharata, they mention a place called Atala, and they situate it at the same latitude as the Canary Islands, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and they say it was, destroyed after a 10-year war, and it sunk into the Western Ocean. And that predates Plato. And it's not an Egyptian source, you know? And yeah, I mean, in the section, I think in chapter 4, I talk about what you were mentioning, like the technologies in some of these texts, like Vimanas, energy weapons, perhaps nuclear, or some sort of extremely powerful energy source that destroyed perhaps different cities. And yeah, it is amazing because, like, first of all, I mean, Oppenheimer himself said this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, I always tell people to think it's like, it's fine if you want to say you're smarter than me, who the hell am I? But to suggest that you know better than Plato and Oppenheimer and Albert Einstein, by the way, Albert Einstein vouched for everything Charles Hapgood wrote. Okay. Mm-hmm. Albert Einstein used to write letters of recommendation for his Earth crust shift theory and his ancient maps. Okay. So even Einstein was on board with this. And so it's fascinating because, like you said, Oppenheimer, some people suggest he even got the idea conceptually from this ancient text, and he was asked, and I haven't been able to verify this like 100%, which drives me crazy, but I think there is very good anecdotal evidence that during a Q&A after the dropping of the atomic bomb at Rochester University, allegedly a student asked him, was this the first time we've ever done this? What we just saw on, heard on the radio and saw pictures of in the newspaper. Was this the first time? And he said, well, and he paused. He said, well, in modern times, yes.
Well, I just
like, what's that all?
Well, I found out in my research that scientists have discovered in places in India where they said that some of these battles supposedly took place,
right,
that they are finding radiation in the land that has no explanation, meaning that there's no natural source of the radiation, nor has there ever been a battle in recorded history in that area that would have radiation.
Right.
But yet there's still radiation in those areas, hence where these quote unquote energy weapons were shot.
Right. And in Frederick Oliver's account, it's really weird because, again, a 17-year-old kid working in a mine in Eureka is not reading the Bhagavad Gita, I'm guessing, in 1886.
In between the dialogues of Plato, he's just snuck in the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah. After he comes out of the silver mine, he goes home and has a glass of milk.
Curls up with the Bhagavad Gita.
Curls up with the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, on the frontier in 1886. But he says, like in the story that he channels from 11,160 BC, the story of this man, this voice who's telling him, I'm using you as a channel. One of the plot arcs is this person who's called Zaim, Zailm is the name of the protagonist in this story, this incredible, beautiful, like it's a Star Wars story. It's crazy. I'm almost convinced Lucas and friends must have heard of this book. I'm really serious about that. I'm very serious about this because there's too many things that you can't explain. But in the story, the character he becomes a prince. He's a miner who strikes gold. He becomes a prince and runs up the ranks of Atlantean society. And he's actually sent to India, which he calls Suern, Suern, in 11,160 on a diplomatic mission in a flying machine. And, you know, he goes over there and says that they had an extremely advanced civilization, but it was different. It was more of like they had reached a point, he said, where they didn't need material weapons of war like the Atlanteans did. So he said, he describes a war between Atlantis and India, basically. And he says that we sent our flying ships there to attack them with weapons, and their occult leaders could just turn the weapons against us. And he's describing guided missiles in 1886.
Right. But
and also, he's like, they could turn the missiles against us and destroyed our Veil fleet. You know, he even has a name for it. And in the Vedic text, they talk about Veliksi. And again, it's like, where is this kid getting these things? He's not reading Sanskrit text.
And also that makes sense because, I mean, as a country and as a culture, India has always been based much more in the spiritual,
right,
and in the consciousness aspect of things, which could be a remnants from an advanced culture,
right,
from 10,000, 20, 30,000 years ago in that area, which was evolved consciously. And there are stories about that as well, where they've evolved so much that the yogic powers, but on a massive scale, of being able to manipulate reality.
Yes.
Which is stuff that the yogic powers do on a smaller scale. But can you imagine 20,000 years of that?
Well, and it's crazy because the king of Atlantis, or of Poseid, the one of the three islands, which again is odd because Poseidon. Casey said Poseid for the main island. Oliver said Poseid. And then in Plato's account of Atlantis, there's a statue of Poseidon in the capital. So I think they're all talking about the island of Poseid, one of three final islands. But in the story, it's interesting because the king of Poseid tells Zame, be very careful how you deal with this Indian king, because he can kill even me with just a thought halfway across the world. So be very careful. Like, don't think that there's anything with your weaponry and your ship and all of your by the way, your electric rifle. So he's describing a blaster, I'm guessing. But what is an electric rifle in 1886? It's like he's talking about a blaster rifle.
Is electricity a thing yet? Oh, a little bit.
No, it is. It is. Yeah, it is. But it's like the light bulb had been invented in households like 4 years. No, like the year he started writing it, the first light bulb, I think, from Edison patented was in a house. Right. So he doesn't have electricity in his house. No, definitely.
Yeah, it's not widely known what electricity is or what it does yet at that point. No. It's right around the same
Neither
time.
are smartphones that can project images holographically.
Yeah.
Neither are, like
ships, cigar ships,
cigar-shaped flying ships made of aluminum, and then descriptions of how they could transmute clay in Atlantis into aluminum, and then a 3-page treatise on how that worked. And it's like, where are you getting this? Probably from an actual source from the Akashic records or the cloud that actually found somebody that was, able to be used as a vehicle to channel this message.
To watch the full video, click on the link below, and don't forget to subscribe.